Being recorded. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Mindhast. Once again, we're back from a small break. A small little break.
Yeah.
How was the break, Muhammad?
You know when your moustache gets really long and it just starts digging into your lips?
Yeah.
It's kind of like how the break was, but my moustache is really long. Oh, it just hurts, man. And I haven't got my razor. So I said, I'm moving. Well, I say moving. I'm mostly moved.
Yes.
But I've still got stuff in my old flat that I need to get.
We can see it's a little empty behind you.
Excuse me, this room is done. Thank you very much.
Well, we just can't see it then, I guess.
There you go.
Oh, wow. Okay, we got the flowers. Yes.
That's it. That's all you need.
Yes.
If I'm putting finishing touches like that, I must be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll buy you some wall art.
Alhamdulillah. Oh, you know what? Probably not. I'm very much against putting nails in walls because I know I have to pay for it after I leave.
I was going to ask you actually, what is the situation like in the UK for the most part with that kind of stuff?
Well, the contract says not even any blue tack, bro. That's what the contract says. You know, blue tack.
Okay, so what if you put blue tack or you nailed something in the wall and you kind of covered it up?
I don't know. If they don't know, they don't know. I mean, my
Yeah.
other place, I still don't know. Like, I know that I've got a huge hole in the wall there because I put up some sort of weird plant thing for Suleiman. Like a cover over his bed, make it look like a jungle. But because the walls were so weak, I had to make quite a big hole. That's going to be a bit. I also got a hole in the door because one of the kids pushed the door open and it hit against the corner of a bedside cabinet and stuff like that. And you know, I won't know until next month.
Is it like they take a deposit and if there's damage they won't give it back, or they ask you to pay?
They've got a deposit, which I'm hoping to get as much back from it as I can. But this is it, isn't it? They'll calculate all the damages at the end and be like, and
they'll probably round it up by £500.
Yeah, something like that. And I was just be like, you know, so ideally I'd want it all back, but I know it's not going to be the case. You know, not to mention, like, I've lost a couple of keys, like, during this whole process. So we've only got one key left. We're meant to have, like, 3 keys.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not going to say who lost what. But the blame is equal. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Before I forget, 2 things. One is this episode is sponsored by Confidence Accelerator. If you're looking to improve your confidence in order to get more things done, whether it's professionally, whether it's in your studies, whether it's like dawah or some kind of impact thing, then check out the Confidence Accelerator. Before you even discover that, go to the free training, which we'll put in the description, and you'll be able to explore what they have to offer in terms of like what they've done and how they do it and if it's the right thing for you. So like you can kind of just check out that free training and see, you know, if you're interested, then you can go from there. So that's one thing. The second thing is I want everyone to make dua for a very good listener of ours, a very generous listener of ours who, you know, gave us a very nice Eid gift. And you know, we're not going to mention the details, the names, nothing like that, but really just make dua for this guy because it really touched me in terms of how like generous people can be. So I wanted to say that. I didn't want to forget that, definitely.
MashaAllah.
Yes. And what was I going to say? Yes, regarding what you're saying about the mustache, bro.
Oh, bro, tell me about it.
What are you saying about the mustache? Because you know when you're slaughtering for, what's it called? Udhiyah. Yes. You're not supposed to like cut your nails or hair or beard or anything like that. So that you reminded me of that because I had that situation. I'm not even sure, by the way, if I needed to be doing that. If I'm not the one physically slaughtering, do I need to do that or not? I wasn't sure, so I kind of kept it just in case. And it got kind of long. Even now it's long, but it's kind of thick but not long, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, I just don't like it, man. I need to sort it out like right now, but you know, the podcast, we're recording. Listeners don't want to see or hear that.
Yeah. How was your Eid, bro? Let's talk about Eid. How was your Eid? What did you get up to?
Let's set the scene. Got up in the morning. Eid always has this like thing where we don't get enough sleep. Have you realised that? Is that something? I feel like a lot of people have the same experience.
Yeah, kind of. Because Salatul Eid's like early, isn't it?
Yeah. which is silly because we get up for, maybe earlier for work sometimes. But anyway, not me though. Now that I work from home, if I start at 8, I wake up at like 10 to. But anyway, so bro, I took in my head I didn't think Suleiman had been to Eid with me before, like at least in the men's section, but he'd definitely gone once before to the outside sort of area. Well, we did it once outside, but generally here in the city they always do it indoors. Don't know why, but that's just the way they do it. But he came with me, bro. He came with me, he sat with me, and I was like, okay, gave him some ground rules, no running around, no this, no that, just pray like we pray, blah, blah, blah. And he pretty much, 99% of the time, he was all good. I think he struggled a bit because there was, I think everybody struggled because there was a bit of a delay. So I went to a new masjid that opened up near me, and we were waiting there. They says they're going to pray they pray a bit later. They're going to pray at 9:30. We're sitting there, okay, cool. 9:30 hits. The imam's still making, takbirat. Okay, we're all waiting. 9:40 hits, still making takbirat. 9:50 hits, he stands up, sits back down, still making takbirat. It's like 30 minutes, we're still, and then I could see people getting really frustrated and like, what's going on? Like, why is he? And then some elder was like shouting at some other guy. He goes, "Oh, you ask him then." They're all like, and then Suleiman's like sitting there like, that man is very angry. And I was like, yeah. He goes, "Can we go home now?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we have to wait." I was like, what's going on? I'm sitting there like, why is he taking so long? Realizing later on that he's a new imam, right? He's waiting for someone a bit more experienced to come down from London or wherever to take over. So he was just stalling for time without telling anybody why he was stalling. And eventually the imam who was going to lead the salah came. But then obviously he had to start giving it, because, sorry, I didn't even say, the first imam gave a bit of a khutbah anyway, a very short one, but we thought, okay, that's it.
Oh, before the...
Yeah. And that's what in my head I was a bit like, why is he doing a khutbah before? Maybe they do things different here, I don't know. But then we had to wait for the imam to come. Anyway. And then that imam was of the opinion that the khutbah is mandatory, so you have to stay. So he said, after the salah, he said, okay, we're doing a khutbah now, so everybody has to stay. And then as soon as he finished the salah, he was about to do the khutbah, like, loads of people got up and walked off. And I was like, oh, this is really awkward, because there were people that were like really sort of, impatient and stuff. And I felt bad for Suleiman because he was being really well behaved and stuff, but it went on for a really long time for him.
Sounds like it was like more than an hour.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean,
and
it was
what did you say it was? Yeah, around that time.
It was starting 9:30, and I remember having a dinner or so at 11, like breakfast. We're gonna have breakfast at 11 somewhere, and must have finished at like 10 to 11. So I was like, I need to get there really late. Anyway, it is what it is, man.
Well,
what about
in the
you?
UK it's different, man. Like in the UK, you tend to do Salatul Eid later, and then sometimes they do multiple prayers.
So this is it, and like the other masjid had, so the main masjid that I usually go to had 3 prayers, one at 8:30, one at 9:30, one at 10:30. This one was only going to do one, and it was going to be at 9:30. Typically, I always go for the earliest one, 8:30, because I always have this internal battle where they're like, the second 2 are even like meant to be a thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There is that discussion whether you can have multiple prayers in one place. Now I know that they change the imams and the congregation is different. The only thing that's the same is the building. Allahu A'lam, but I always play it safe by going to the first one anyway, and then that way, shows my dedication, bro.
I don't know what the rule is around how late it should be or early. Well, I think I think it just has to be before the sun is at the top, is it? Or
I don't know. I mean, typically when I was in Tunisia, bro, they do it really early.
Yeah, that's in every Muslim country they do it. Like here, it was at 6:20 a.m. And always in UAE, it was around that time. It's about, I think it's it's like an hour after Fajr, pretty much exactly an hour after Fajr, and that's consistent across many countries. I think I've done. How many Muslim countries have you done Eid prayer in?
Just Tunisia probably, and that's it. I don't think I've done it anywhere else. Oh, have I gone to Morocco? I don't think so. No, I can't remember doing Eid in Morocco at all, unless I was a little boy, so I wouldn't have been going to the masjid then. But yeah, it's going to be just Tunisia. It's a travel
Yeah.
more, don't I? Clearly. Crikey.
Well, it's a luxury. I think I've done it in 3 countries, and it's always like that kind of early. We did it in the park. So there's a very big park near us, and like literally we wouldn't fit in the biggest masjid, so they do it in the park, and it's really good. It was really nice. It's hot these days here, but you know, it was early morning, so it was good. And then afterwards we just stayed behind there actually with like loads of families, and we were all there in the park until, man, we must have been there till like 10:30. You know.
Do they do like, you know, do they do like open udhiyas there and stuff, or is it?
Yeah,
all,
it's
like,
pretty
legislated and
free
whatever?
and
Is
loose.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, not. I couldn't smell it from my house, but my local masjid, you could smell the sheep and cows and everything, because in this very neighborhood there's a big tent where they put all of the animals for Eid. So
Right.
about a week before Eid, they started filling up that place with all the sheep and stuff. And you could like, you go to the masjid, you smell the smell of sheep and stuff, because it's pretty close to there. And yeah, you could, like the week before, you can go, you can pick your animal or whatever, you can buy it in advance. You can slaughter there as well. Or because I'm near the outskirts of Istanbul, you can also go and go to like a farm, like a nearby farm, and do it there as well. It's pretty free and loose. I really wanted to do it, to be honest, myself, but I thought it was complicated, and I don't know anyone, and
You've been sensitized by the system. That's what's happened. Okay, just admit it. All right, write it in your book. I was going to tweet about this actually, because during that time, I was seeing a lot of brothers on Instagram were just posting their udhiyas, right? Not just obviously I must follow people from all over the world, but I'm not always 100% sure where people are. But I know like one of the brothers was in America, but I couldn't tell if the video he posted was in America or if it was like from somewhere that he paid. Either way, I was like, oh, here we go. This is interesting, right? Because I was like, okay, it's on Instagram. He's famous for sensitizing all this political stuff and violent stuff or whatever. Let's see how the story goes with these posts. So I was looking at the comments and looking at what's going on, what the feedback is on all these. Some people were quite like, there were some days actually that were quite, that've got quite a large following. I was like, okay, let's have a little taste at what the ummah is looking like these days by scrolling through the comment section.
Wait, so people are posting videos of the slaughtering the animal?
Yeah, exactly.
They don't take those down?
Well, I haven't rechecked, but at that point they weren't taken down yet.
Okay.
But there was enough comments on them to sort of gauge what people's reactions were, and there, you had it all in there. You had, sort of like, I don't want to say red pill Muslims, but you got those guys that are like, post what you want, Sheikh. Yeah, this is it. Like, don't pay attention to the haters, blah blah blah. And then you have like, the real sort of, you should have used hikmah. Why would you post this? Blah blah blah. All this other stuff. I was sitting there just enjoying the show, really. I didn't have an opinion either way, but it did make me think, like, about this whole sensitizing of these kind of symbols, and it's in the wake of what's going on in France at the moment. I don't know if you've seen, but they're sort of overtly now kind of, like, I think it was something in a news story the other day where there was an imam that recited a particular verse from the Quran. They didn't specify what verse, but I think I can have a guess. He recited a certain verse of the Quran during Eid, either in the sermon or in the salat, and he was removed of his post by the French whatever. They took him out of his sort of because apparently it doesn't, the verses he quoted do not
yes, I read
the
this.
values of the Republic or whatever, something like that, right? I was like, ooh, this is I mean, France is nasty, bro. I'm gonna go on record and say that. You can quote me on that. Say, Achi Tweet said France is, bro. I'm just not a fan, but I'm still sore from my history of oppression. But ultimately, yeah, man, it is worrying because soon you'll have no symbols left, and stuff like this as well. Like, it's once a year, but there's so much outcry against it. It's like, some people were legitimately replying like, where do you think your meat comes from? Like your your McDonald's burgers and all this sort of stuff.
I remember one guy, he posted saying like, oh, so and so many thousand, hundreds of thousands maybe of turkeys are slaughtered for Thanksgiving, and this is slaughtered for some Jewish kind of thing. And so, like, what's the problem with udhiyah? Like,
There's this thing about violence I think I appreciate violence without context, and violence without senseless violence maybe is abhorrent and not something we're fans of. But at the same time, I think you fall into extremes where you're taking away a lot of things that are fundamental in Islam for a reason. For example, right, particular punishments legislated in Sharia, right? Without going into details on all of them, because I don't have the details, I'm not of ilm, but some of them legislate that there has to be people that watch that, there has to be people that see that, etc.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a wisdom behind that. Like, I remember, what film did I watch? Is it called like something Mile, The Long Mile, or Green Mile? Green Mile. That's the one.
That execution one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I forgot that I completely forgot that movie has like science fiction elements in it.
Yeah.
So like halfway through, when it went a bit sci-fi, I looked at my wife. I was like, "What? I don't remember this. What's going on?"
The dude has all the flies coming out his mouth and stuff.
Because I remember telling my wife, I was like, "Oh, this film's really emotionally impactful." I remember watching it when I was a bit younger.
Yes,
think a lot about life and stuff.
I remember it from maybe I watched it 15 years ago.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh yeah, sure, why not?" And I put it on, and then halfway through, I was like, "Well, really sorry, I don't remember any of this. Why is this happening?" But then it kind of came back to me. But in that, to no spoilers, but I mean, the story revolves around a prison, and a particular prison inmate.
Death row.
America.
Yeah.
But death row, yeah. And obviously with death row, you've got people that are being executed. But part of that was it showed you how people that were being sent on the electric chair, they had an audience, right? At that time, at least.
Yeah. I think they wanted to see it. They wanted to see justice get served.
But not every single person in that audience was a member of the victim. It was quite clear, because you'd only have like a couple of people that were crying, and it almost looked like some people, it was like an open kind of invitation in a way to see justice being carried out. And I suppose you could. It's akin to like courtrooms. Courtrooms, at least in the UK, they're open for anyone to just walk in and watch a trial. And that's
separate from the jury, is it?
Yeah, separate from the jury. So just part of the audience, in a sense that it maintains that transparency, etc. Obviously, I'm sure not all court cases are like that, but your average sort of shoplifting or whatever it is, you can see how that plays out. It's not very exciting, but it is what it is. But it makes you think, there are wisdoms behind exposing yourself to this sort of stuff within reason, and with a particular context, and udhiyah is one of them. And I do think sometimes, like, will there be anyone left to do it if we're all heading in that direction? How is it going to be done? If is there going to be alternatives? Are people going to because we're moving towards that kind of culture of like sensitizing, and the last few things of Islam that are quite controversial in this Western liberal world, they're just getting targeted now quite deeply.
And and you could argue it's because of that we should put it online, the video or whatever.
Possibly, yeah. Someone
could
would
argue
say that.
I don't know if I would put the video of me slaughtering, I don't know why I would do that, but I might pose with the head.
This is it. But you know what? There's equivalent shows, bro. Like, I remember flicking through, I don't know, some sort of streaming service, and there was like a Joe Rogan documentary of him hunting and stuff. There's similar stuff like on YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All this sort of stuff. So it's like, I think a lot of it is because it's Muslims. That's why we're gonna target it. We're gonna talk about it.
It's partly that, and it's partly the marketing of it, right? So like Joe Rogan, he will have his detractors when he does that, but at the same time, the way he positions himself and he brands himself, people are gonna kind of find it cool. And it's almost, how it is in the US especially, bro. It's like there's a group of people who are sick of the political correctness, and they love to see anything like this, which is just against the status quo. Like everyone's going vegan, let's kill an animal and eat it, and eat it raw, and eat its heart while it's beating.
Absolutely. Oh, bro. I haven't watched the Joe Rogan thing for a while, but I think since he moved to Spotify, I'm like, okay, you've lost me. That's it. I'm not really interested now.
Okay.
But I do sometimes listen to the clips that they put up on YouTube. And bro, whenever there's like something about UFOs, bro, my ears prick up. I'm like, yeah, let me play that. Let me see what's going on.
Apparently, there's a podcast by Lex Friedman.
Okay.
Apparently that's really, really good, like on the level of Joe Rogan, maybe better or something. I've not listened to it, but I've been told like it's kind of maybe a deeper version of Joe Rogan in terms of like they get higher level experts or they go deeper or something like that.
I was gonna message you about this the other day, but I started exploring Patreon a bit more.
Okay.
And there's a podcast I listened to. Been listening to it since I was like, I don't know, 13.
Okay.
And they've always been talking about their podcast, their Patreon and stuff. I was like, I don't really, I was always like, I don't really know if I can be bothered with stuff like that. But then they previewed one of the shows that they put on their Patreon. They previewed it on, they gave us like a free one, and I listened to it. I was like, I really want more of this. I wish I could. So I looked at their Patreon. It was like $2, bro, a month or something. And I was like, oh, sweet, that's amazing. But I wanted to see the Patreon app and experience it properly and stuff. And I'm also, I've had a look at Freshly Grounded one's Patreon as well, just to sort of familiarize myself with the platform and stuff. But what is good, which I didn't realize you can do, is have like hidden RSS links.
Right.
You know what I mean? So my issue with Patreon was that the content you put on there is going to be
consumed
locked
there.
onto that locked onto that platform.
Yeah.
And that doesn't appeal to me because I don't want to use a Patreon app that I just want to carry on but just have access to all this stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, they had like this RSS link thing where you can literally copy it from the Patreon app and then just upload it into your podcast player, and there you go, you've got access.
Or what if you share that link with me?
There is that, I suppose there is that. However, I mean, to be honest, their RSS link is broken. It didn't work. No. But I think that's more them than it is the Patreon app.
Yeah, sure.
But the fact that that's there and that exists, that was really interesting to me. It got me thinking about Mind Heist and stuff, and I was thinking like, Mind Heist is, I mean, we'd talk about this offline as well, but from anyone that is listening, if you want more from Mind Heist, maybe more of a specific type of show or a specific type of thing, I think it'd be a great platform to do that, because I was quite humbled when we had our bit of a break that we had, a few people, I was getting messages, here and there, when's the next episode coming, blah, blah. And I do forget that we have an audience of people that are actually waiting for the next episodes. There was some comments on YouTube and stuff like that, and I was like, it made me feel quite, alhamdulillah, and I'm proud of both of us that, I mean, I don't think we put too much work into it, but at the same time, like, it's like, we've come a long way to remain relatively consistent. And I know that there was this wave of podcasts back when Freshly Grounded opened the doors years ago, and now it's like, how many of those are still left? A few of them are, but some big ones, like even like Rerouted, for example, had to change quite dramatically.
It hasn't been as consistent as well.
Yeah, and I'm not making sweeping judgments about them. Of course, everyone has their challenges and stuff, but for a podcast that doesn't rely on guests such as us, I think it's really quite good and quite impressive. And I missed these podcasts, really. I missed 2 weeks off, and I come back now and talk, and I was like, look at us, we're just back at it, bro. You know what I mean? We're not even. I was just thinking now, like, we're just back at it. It's like they didn't even stop. So I think alhamdulillah, we have something special here. But yeah, I've been trying to think to myself what kind of stuff would be suitable for a Patreon, because at the end of the day, it's time that we both invest, and it's not always time that we can easily invest. And I'd like to do more, but there has to be a bit of more of an incentive, a buy-in to do more. So it might be something worth doing on, a bit more Patreon.
I'm kind of against Patreon,
Well, I'll do it for myself then, all right?
For 2 reasons.
Specials.
No, tell me what you think, yeah?
Go on.
So Patreon, as far as I know, they take 10%, which is a huge amount, right?
Right.
Because a payment processor normally will take like 2.9%. So if I set up my own system to charge people every month, then that will cost me 2.9%. But Patreon is going to charge me another 7.1%. Like for what? Like, okay, they're hosting the thing, but still, So I think 10% is a bit too much. The second thing is, maybe more important, is I've just heard things here and there of them like censoring people,
Really?
And like who knows? Maybe they should have censored these people, but I just feel like we are, you know, whatever you want to call it, sitting duck for people to.
Ripe for censoring. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, honestly, as Muslims, we have to consider that. You know, we have to consider that stuff. Even like, I think it was Smile to Jannah. He was talking about how on YouTube he seems to get censored in terms of he doesn't get the reach that others might get because his material's like Islamic. So, and like we know, I mean, I don't know if you know actually, but the culture of YouTube and Google, it's very much like left-leaning, very much this and that, homophobia, phobia, you know. So anything that is not status quo or whatever you want to call it, you could be a target, maybe not now, but in 3 years, 2 years. And if you're building up a group of patrons or Patreons there, then you're vulnerable. I've been thinking the same around like following on Twitter or Facebook, whatever it is. Again, you're kind of vulnerable to that stuff, and that's why something like Discord is appealing because you kind of own that more, or like in Telegram kind of channels or email lists. These things are more in your control, and these are just things I think I associate this kind of stuff with Patreon. But there is an app, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a service or an app or whatever, where you can basically publish private podcasts or audiobooks. And it will deal with the payments as well. And what the listener does is they will have this company's app on their phone, and they'll have like the feed there, right? And if they unsubscribe, so they stop paying, then they don't get access anymore. So it's all kind of done within one system. So that could be good. I was looking into it before. So stuff like that. But yeah, man, I think we need to make these clips, man. that would be good.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
there are some podcasts I see that I see them as kind of like the production value is kind of on our level. Okay, it's not high production value like others, but yet they actually get decent views on YouTube at least. Maybe they're YouTube only. Maybe they don't even do the thing, the audio thing. But they're doing quite well as well. So there are others, but yeah, you're right. A lot have dropped off.
No, definitely. I think with the clip thing that we're using, despite the fact they have an app, you can't really do video stuff on the app. You can only do audio stuff, which is a bit annoying. But now that I've got the computer all set up and stuff, God, it took me forever just getting the internet working. Just to get my Wi-Fi on, but now that's sorted out. It should be faster, bro. It should be much faster.
Inshallah,
I have potential of like, I'm not paying for this, but it said like I could get like 1 gigabyte download speeds.
Nuts.
Way more than
nuts.
The base level was 150. I was like, yeah, I'll just take that. Thank you very much.
You actually get that speed?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
wow.
I don't want to do a test now, but I remember last time I checked, it was like 135. 140.
Wow, yeah, amazing. So, I mean, probably beyond 70 or something, you're not seeing a difference. But you know what I've realized, bro? Are you going to be working like from home for the foreseeable future, or what's the deal with that?
So it's meant to be my employer, my organization, blah blah blah. Even though all the restrictions are over, they were like, stay at home if you can, please, and please wear your mask, even though you know what I mean.
At home,
please. Even if the government said don't wear your mask, just keep wearing your mask, please. Thank you. That'd be really helpful. Stuff like that. Like it was all in bold writing as well. We really thought it was going to be the other end of it. And we thought, okay, everybody come back in now. That's enough. Oh. But no, it was definitely like if you got the tech to stay at home, if you got the tech to work remotely, you got your laptop, you got whatever resources you need, please carry on doing so. COVID has made us really think about flexible working and blah 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 and this and that. And I've realised, I don't know if I can say this, but this is my assumption, a lot of the people in charge at the moment in my organisation are women, okay? Women just love flexible working, bro. A lot of women have kids.
Fair
a
enough.
lot of women, do you know what I mean? They lean towards, and now that I'm in the sort of, I'm involved in the recruitment side of things a bit more. It's like you get a lot of women that want to join and stuff, but they're also asking about flexible working. I've got childcare, blah blah blah. I never really hear that kind of stuff from men, but it's understandable. A lot of women are mothers.
Yes.
So it's always like first thing on the agenda. So sorry, my eye's really itchy. But so with that in mind, I was thinking, maybe that's why, because a lot of the women that are in charge they're of, they're the age that you'd think, they probably have quite a few kids already,
Yeah. So they can
they're quite
empathize.
stable families. Yeah. So I think it works out, and I think it'll probably be for a while. As far as me as an individual, this role is meant to be. It was meant to be permanent, and I applied for it as a permanent role. And my boss was like, "Yeah, it should be permanent." But then when I actually applied it, there was some thing that said, "Oh, it's until June next year." So June 2022, and I brought that up recently, kind of informally. I was like, "Oh, by the way, it's meant to be." And she was like, "Oh no, it's not meant to be. I'll see about that. And if they want to send you back to whatever, then I'll try and fight for you back and blah blah blah." So I've got the buy-in at least from my boss to stay.
Yeah,
but that's why I'm just trying to put in the work, bro. So I can say, "Don't get rid of me. Look what I've done for you."
Yes. I'm saying that to say that, one thing I've been thinking about recently is like I got this new monitor, right? Big monitor to use with my laptop. And really and truly, when you work like with your own materials, right? Whether it's in your own office as a business or whether you're working from home, it's the almost the easiest investment you can make is in your equipment, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got this screen, it's not that expensive really and truly. If that helps me be more productive or work quicker, fully justified, right? If I was to get a new computer now that's like faster and snappier, fully justified. Like, it's under kind of thought of, or whatever you want to call it. Like, people will spend money on many things easily compared to this stuff. Like, this stuff is worth spending money on. Like, even I was thinking, like, my laptop works pretty well, it's fine, even though it's like 4 years old, but I'm actually surprised. Like, I always used to think of laptops as being like 3-year things. After 3 years they kind of fall apart, but mine's like 4 years and it's going well. I think it's because it's got SSD and they don't fail as much as the hard drives.
But they're really quick as well.
However, it struggles a little bit, like how Chrome is like really, it slows things down sometimes. I was thinking, like, there's times when like Google Docs, sometimes it's a bit slow, right? Or like Facebook Ads Manager, it's a bit slow, right? These things are resource intensive. If those few seconds when I'm waiting for that to load, if that would just go away, not only would it save me time, but it would allow me to stay in the flow more, I think. And it will make me more motivated and enthusiastic to actually work and do more work. So just for that reason, the fact that I'm working hours on this every day, like, it's fully justified to get a new laptop. Like, get the best laptop you can get the fastest laptop kind of thing. Obviously, as long as you can afford it. Like, so I've been thinking about that, and I'm kind of tempted to get a new laptop, actually.
Are you working off a laptop now, or is it a desktop?
Yeah, it's laptop, but it's just connected to the monitor,
Because my wife's not a fan of this desktop setup I've got here, because it probably looks ugly and doesn't suit the feng shui of the room, whatever. Okay, but
feng shui's haram.
Whatever it is, bro. I've had this computer.
So that's a desktop.
Yeah, it's a desktop.
Desktop almost seems old school, doesn't it?
Oh, bro, I can't bring myself with the laptop life. I've got one for work, and we've got another one that's my wife's, which is literally like trying to get blood out of a stone, just trying to do anything on that.
Yeah.
But this, I've had it since I bought it just before I started university, right? So what's that going to be, like 2012?
Wow.
So it's almost a 10-year-old.
9 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a 10-year-old machine.
Wow.
And I have, it was pretty high up at pretty high up. It wasn't like some custom thing. I went to like PC World or Curry's or whatever it's called at the time, bought it there. But then since then, like maybe 5 years after, I bought a few memory cards for it and added them, speed it up a bit. I bought a graphics card of maybe a few years after that, just shoved it in there. So it's still like, it takes a while sometimes to get going. It will like turning it on, I have to wait for everything to load up. I can't open anything as soon as it turns on. But once it's kind of had it warmed up exactly, and the ball's rolling, it works. And that's why I'm still so like I use it I use it for obviously all my Photoshop stuff. Photoshop is one of those things where it's like hit or miss. Like I can like yesterday, for example, I thought, okay, I want to sit down, I need to do some work on some graphic work or whatever. Turned it on, it was like 15-20 minutes sitting there just looking at that Photoshop logo, waiting for it to show up. But then once it gets going, it's manageable. I know that if I had something new, I would definitely know the difference.
Yes.
And I could definitely notice the difference. Because
Yes.
there's some things that it just can't. Some things it just starts chugging, especially with Photoshop, because when you're trying to do, when you're working on a small file that you're not really looking to print or whatever, 1080 by 1080 square box. But what I tend to work with is like 5,000 pixels by 5,000, just so that if it was to print out, it would none of that quality would lose. Yeah, but that's when it starts chugging on particular aspects. But yeah, my wife was like, "Oh, do you think you could get a laptop? Do you want to get a laptop instead?" I was like, "Oh, like in my head, laptops aren't powerful. They just can't do the job." Right, yes. But then I was looking at some of them I can't really afford one, but just looking at the list and looking at the specs and stuff, I was like, oh, this is really beefy. Like these laptops these days are really quite strong. And then when they gave me this work laptop, it's nothing special. It does what it needs to do, but I just can't deal with that mouse pad thing. I have to plug a mouse in it if I'm going to do any work on it. Stuff like that really, and keyboards. Like I like a good sort of tactile clicky keyboard. Those little flat ones I'm not too keen on. But bro, like ultimately you're right, if your work revolves around these kind of tools, you've got to put your money where your mouth is, and that's same thing with me when it came to like graphic design with Photoshop. Not that I'm always doing stuff for people. I've done one bit of work yesterday for the first time in a long time. A lot of people do ask me, oh, can you taking requests at the moment, blah blah blah. I'm like, absolutely not. Leave me alone, please. But yeah, I agree with you. I think
you can consider.
Go on.
Basically, I kind of already decided, like, when this one slows down or whatever, or I can justify getting a new one, I'm gonna get a Mac. Because Apple now makes their own chips, and they make the chips they're so fast for like for how fast they are. They're so cheap, basically, right? So I decided on that. So what you could do, again, you get a very fast computer, and it could be desktop, and it could be like all in one, and it could look good in the living room, is by getting the new iMac. The new iMac looks really good, and it's going to be desktop, and it's going to be really fast and all of that. It will do all that Photoshop stuff so easily. And I don't know what the going price for laptops are these days, I suppose, or computers in general, but it's reasonably priced, I think, for the speed that it will give you, and also it should last like 5 to 7 years, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, it's like despite the fact that I'm very much in the Apple ecosystem when it comes to phones, and I suppose I got the watch as well. I've just always been like, oh no, I just have to have a PC. Like I don't know why. I just feel like I could do more, and to get a Mac, I'd have to learn that operating system completely, because I'm not exposed to it whatsoever.
I've never had one, but I'm like fully convinced, because the performance seems to be like really good on these new ones. And I've actually, my background like is rubbish, right? It's been like this for way too long. But over Eid, I got these anti-echo things. So I haven't really set them up fully, but they should be helping already. And I've also got a couple things coming for the background. So I'm investing in this kind of stuff as well. And really,
can we get
go on.
Soundproof cages for our kids, because I can just hear them screaming.
Yeah. That's the other thing with working from home, is that. And I realized, especially because, my son recently, he learned to open the door.
Yeah.
So now I'm in big trouble. Like, he comes in multiple times a day. So I realize, actually, especially as, kids get older, I actually can't work from home. I don't see that being reasonably gonna happen. It's realistic.
Interesting, yeah, because sometimes when I know I've got a lot of stuff to do, I'm like, it'd be nice if I could just go. I mean, I've got places to go. I can always go back to, obviously with my job, we've got flipping places to work all over the whole county. I can go anywhere. But there's headquarters as well, which isn't too far from me. And they've got it all, bro. They've got the offices, they've got the canteen, get distracted by the food.
Free coffee.
Money. They've got free parking at the moment as well. They were quite strict on parking before, but now, because of everyone's working from home, they're like, if you want to come and park. They got the gym there, they got basketball courts, got everything. So it's like, it's like a campus. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
maybe I should maybe I should go there. But then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I can't bother. In after one.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Actually, last time I was in the UK, I think must have been 2 years ago now in the summer. I was in the UK. There's a uni near where my family lives, so I was going there to work because I just find I need to go out to like really truly get things done. My current setup, because it's a separate room just for working in, it's okay. But in another house, it's like, no, I need to go out. And actually going out and working in a university is quite a nice experience. You go to the library, or you go to, sometimes they have cafes that are very quiet, in the summer especially, there's no students, and then the staff, there's like, they're not really spending much time in the cafe or whatever. Go there, do some work. So that was good. So this kind of campus thing, it is quite nice. And it's good to get out, I think. I think it's healthy.
It's funny you say that. I've noticed, with this whole move and stuff, I've been calling up all sorts of companies to try and cancel this and set up a direct debit with this and blah, blah, blah. And I've noticed, like, I'm getting into call centers, but they're not, I'm sure, like, I'm 99% sure, it's just a lot of people working from home, and I'm hearing all sorts of stuff I wouldn't typically hear. Like, at one point, I called someone, and it was so, like, I could hear cars, and, like, they were working at a cafe, clearly. Imagine, like, working for an electricity company, right? And you're just taking calls in Starbucks, bro. I was like, this is definitely what's happening. I'm sure of it. But yeah, everybody's sort of doing it now, and I think, to be honest, it makes sense. Like, maybe that's what all these people needed. Can you imagine all this office space that we have for no reason? Like, let's build more parks or something, or housing, or whatever it is that people need.
Well, that's a big opportunity, man.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
a big opportunity. I know. What's his name? The Uber founder, Travis Kalanick. He left Uber and all that, whatever, 2-3 years ago, whatever. And his company, it's doing this whole ghost kitchens thing, right? Where he's got like warehouse with loads of kitchens in, and then it's like delivery only restaurants.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Part of the company as well, it's like taking advantage of these empty office things or empty car parks, right?
Yep.
And some of these are in really prime locations. And I think it's not just ghost kitchens, it's like finding uses for this stuff as well.
Yeah.
So that's like, that could be a big deal in the next 10 years or something, finding uses for this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know you mentioned those ghost kitchens, but I think Deliveroo do the same thing. I remember they opened a... I didn't know what it was at the time, but they opened it. They were building I say building. They were opening up in some place near my mum's house. I was like, what are they doing here? Why would Deliveroo need a building? It didn't make sense to me at the time. And I just started seeing when it was done, I started seeing loads of delivery drivers, parking up there. And I was like, what? This makes no sense. Is this like a staff room for them, like a place to have a break? And I realized, it's basically they extend the reach of all these restaurants by cooking their meals in these kitchens, right? And then it expands where they can deliver to. And I wish they would do that here, because where I live at the moment, like, despite the fact I live very close to the city, for some reason, this part of the city, because there's like a long empty space between where we live, because it's kind of like a village on its own, and the main city. They're like, now we're not interested, won't deliver to you every single time. Despite the fact that some of the places are closer to me than they are at my mum's. Like, city span's so big that my mum's could be 5 miles away from somewhere and they'll deliver to her because they're still within the limits or whatever. But I'm closer to it. I'm like 3 miles away, and they'll be like, no, because you live in that area. But yeah, man, the whole Deliveroo thing, Just Eat, all of these kind of, these transformed a particular industry, didn't they? And now you've got this sort of COVID, remote working and stuff, and that's really made people think again about how you've got entire companies that solely rely on digital stuff. I don't know, like video game manufacturers or movie, not the filming of movies, but like editing and all that post-production stuff. I'm sure you've got the same stuff with the music industry. Anything really that's big and relies on that. They're doing it, bro. They're doing it from home and Zoom calls and stuff. Let
me ask you this, because this was a big deal, I think, happened recently. Basically, Apple, maybe a month ago, they told employees, halas, we decided everyone must come back to the office and work in the office. 3 days a week, you must. 2 days a week, you can stay home if you prefer. But 3 days a week, you must come in the office, okay? Now, apparently some employees, they wrote a letter to the management saying, we don't want this, we want the flexible thing. And what really drove me nuts is they tried to make it into a moral issue. They basically said that, you know, by forcing us to come back to the office physically, you are discriminating against those who, you know, are more able to work comfortably from home, or people who don't feel safe in the office. And so, you know, you're discriminating against them, and they try to make it into an ethical thing, and that just drove me nuts. But anyway, I wanted to ask you what you think about that. Like, and after this letter went out, by the way, from some of just some of the staff, right? Like 80 people signed it out of, I don't know, they got 100,000 staff or whatever, right? Then Apple replied saying, okay, nice opinion, but we're still going to stay with it, basically. Yeah. So they held their ground.
My thing is, it's a double-edged sword, and sometimes it's a bit of the devil, you know, right? I say that for a particular reason. If I was in that position and I had to think long and hard about it, I would just say yes, cool, I'll do that, Apple. Yeah, 2 days at my house, whatever, makes sense. Reason being is, you know, I appreciate. Look, yesterday I was stuck in traffic trying to just get from one. I'm so not used to traffic because it just hasn't been like that for a while. Yeah. You know, and I was stuck in traffic for like an hour, and I was literally 10 minutes from my house, and I just couldn't get out of it. And I remember saying to my wife, I was like, and I went to London recently just for like a day trip, and same thing, I got stuck in traffic for ages. And I was saying to my wife, like, oh, imagine there's people in this queue that, like, they spend 8 hours at work, and they spend 2 hours trying to get to work and 2 hours trying to get back home, and that's it. And I appreciate, like, just eliminating those hours to flipping getting there is such a huge impact. It's going to have such a huge impact on people's, you know, quality of life. 100%. But at the same time, I was thinking a bit more about this. I was like, you know, if you were to just go completely remotely, and I'm sure you'd recognize this, what is the point of hiring me? You know, when you could just hire someone from a country that can speak fluent English, can do the job at like a fraction of the price you're paying me. You know. And a company like Apple and a company like Google and all these, they're just going to catch on to that very soon. I mean, they probably do it anyway with a lot of their, services. But like, what is it that particular person in Los Angeles or San Francisco, or whatever, who is saying, no, I want to stay remote working all the time? What's the difference between them and just training somebody on the other side of the world? In fact, you could literally you could send a team of trainers, so to speak, to India, to China, to wherever, and, you know, for a year or a month, train all these people at some camp or whatever. This is how you do the job. This is what I expect you to do. Get that person out of there, leave, and then leave them to just do the job, right? Digitally, online, whatever. Now, on one hand, people will say, "Oh, yeah, they don't have the same internet, and they're not going to be as reliable and stuff." But it's only a matter of time, and a lot of these places do have that. You know, and there's always going to be
Starlink,
backups.
Baby.
Yeah, bro. For like one person, you know, for the one person that you hire in the UK, you could hire 3-4 people somewhere else for that same price. You know, so you could always have a backup. And also, a lot of these guys that work from abroad, I mean, you've probably read it in the 4-hour work week or whatever. They don't just work for you. They probably work for a lot of other people. They're micromanaging. They don't have this clock in and out. They're just trying to make some money. And actually, it's good for them. You know, I think it's great for their economy, for these people that are from, you know, less economically strong countries, to have those opportunities to work for these companies and to look after their families, and it kind of negates that. Ideally, it would negate that inequality barrier a bit. You know, spread the wealth, so to speak. I don't know how much that's actually going to affect it. You know, they're not going to pay those guys the same they're going to pay me, are they? If they can pay them cheaper, they'll pay them cheaper. Yeah. But, you know, imagine in an ideal world, you know, if the average salary here is 30 grand, imagine paying someone, you know, in
12 grand.
India. But not even that. Imagine paying them the same amount of money just because they're going to be more reliable, etc. So, that's the danger, I suppose, because if you start playing games with your boss in that way, they'll be like, why am I doing this again? Are you really that valuable to me?
Exactly.
Anyone could do your job. When it comes to the internet, and when it comes to, if you're going to work remotely, right, then you might as well, I could do my job effectively now. I could go to Tunisia and mostly do my job from over there, you know. There are still requirements to, I mean, maybe my job's not a good example, because as COVID kind of ideally goes away, my job's going to be very much going out, attending events, all that sort of stuff, right? But let's say hypothetically it was exclusively an online sort of situation. Is there any need for me to stay here? Of course not. I could literally go abroad and work from there. And then they'll be like, wait, why are we paying this UK citizen who's gone to live in Tunisia to work. Why don't we just? I'm sure there's qualified people all over the place. You know, I know for a fact Tunisia's got people that are way more educated than I am, just haven't had the opportunity. So yeah, give them the job. So that's my argument. If Apple was saying come 3 days a week, I would say yes, sir. Okay.
But
that's the reason why.
That's the thing. Like, I personally cannot get my head around the idea that you're going to tell your boss what to do and what decisions to make. Like, it's their company.
But they're not thinking. They're not thinking about how detrimental that is to their own career.
Yeah, they're not thinking about that. That's another point. That is another point.
They're thinking about the moral thing, and they're like, oh, freedoms and blah, blah, blah. And they'll be like, well, we don't care about that. We'll go find someone who doesn't care about the moral argument of it all. Because they will. They'll find them across the other side of the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think Apple is not a good example of this, because the people that Apple hire in that big, the spaceship, as they call it, those people are extremely high, like, level, right? Of course. And these people are the type that get paid probably like £70,000 a year plus, like minimum 70,000, right? Yeah. They're like product managers, product designers, all of that stuff, right? These kind of people, they might have they have way more leverage than some others, but still, just the concept, like, the person that pays your salary, it's a transaction, you're doing work in exchange for money, and now you want to dictate the terms of the contract when they gave you the contract, they wrote the contract, and you agreed to it. So I don't get the mindset there.
It's an entitlement culture,
It is,
it's
man.
like, oh, we have our rights, and everybody wants their rights, and everybody's demanding them in a particular way. It's like these God-given things, apparently. Actually, God is out of the equation for a lot of these people, but it's like, okay, this is it. And I was thinking, I'm not even going to say what group it was or whatever, but there's this particular group of obviously people that fight for rights or whatever. They were doing some sort of protest recently, and there was a poster for it, and I remember reading the poster, and it was like, reclaim our rights. And I remember sending it to my group chat, and I was like, what rights have these guys not got? Like, they've got everything. Like, there's nothing that, like, I'm trying to think. Obviously, I'm not part of that group. I'm trying to think, what is it? What more rights do these guys want? They've got everything. Like, they're not being discriminated against in terms of these particular things, So it's just people with all the rights are still claiming they want more rights, and it's like this entitlement thing where, I'll be honest, like, with the way capitalism works, these big corporations are going to get exhausted trying to bloody please everybody. They will just get, they will just move and go somewhere else, look for employees somewhere else.
Less entitled people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
one person talking about this, they said, look, for Apple, this is very good news, right? Because he said, especially when the economy is a bit shaky, big companies would love the opportunity to fire the bottom 10% of performers in their company. Yeah. Because, the bottom 10%, like, they're wasting their time. They're not worth what you're paying them. So it'd be great to be able to get rid of those, bring in new ones who are actually going to be, not even replace them. Like, companies get bloated, right? And you end up having managers to manage managers and all that rubbish that goes on.
About it.
So, if they could get rid of like 5-10% of the low performers, the people who are entitled, the people who don't want to come in and do the work, then that'd be great for them, and they'll be fully justified, because the default is you come and work 5 days a week. Now we're saying 3 days a week, and it's not enough. Well, okay, bye.
There's definitely something about being in person and getting those ideas in person, like,
especially when you're working on products, when you're designing and all of this, when you're brainstorming, there is a benefit. Obviously, I'm like fully remote and all of that. I think in the ideal world,
but you would like to, I'm sure, you would like to meet your colleagues, and you would like to sit down and brainstorm. I'm sure I would. Yeah,
like maybe once a month, once a week even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It depends. Like, if I've got like a big project coming up, I can't focus just staring at the screen, and like, I just feel like I'm not really there. I'm not really part of it. But but something's just that change of scenery can really boost that enthusiasm and stuff. But yeah, I do appreciate at the same time. When I was in that traffic, bro, and I had that thought experiment in my mind, like, imagine having to drive into work, like, especially for those guys that commute to London and back. It's like eliminating that huge chunk of time is just enormous for people. Because I don't know how people can live like that, doing like 2-3 hour commutes back and forth. What time do you eat? What time you can't look after yourself, bro. Since this job switched for me and I'm now remote and all this stuff, the extra time I have to, sleep is one. I don't have those, apart from today for some reason. I don't have those days where I'm like, I'm just going to sleep. Like, I can't function, bro. Like, I've been consistent in the gym, I've been consistent with my diet, I've been consistent with a lot of things, just looking after myself, generally speaking. That I'm worried that if this opportunity was to end, I'm going to really regress back into the old, like, horrible me, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. Bro, I wouldn't want to put employees through that. Like, I wouldn't.
No, of course.
Yeah,
of course,
definitely.
Of course.
I don't see myself having that kind of thing, forcing people, especially with commuting and all that.
I mean, if they said, hey, 3 days, okay, we'll come 2 days a week. How about that? You know, if they started bargaining like that, not to say no, we're not coming in at all. You know,
the thing that killed me is the ethical thing, like trying to say you're not ethical for doing this.
Oh, it's just they're clearly using that kind of narrative to their own advantage, because that's what's hot right
I believe
now.
So. I believe so. Yeah.
It's like,
speaking of well-being, I recently got into this. I think you do this as well, right? Because you got the Apple Watch, so tracking your steps.
Oh yeah.
So I turned it on my phone recently. I just kind of was curious. So I'm surprised myself. From what you know, bro, what is like a good step count or something? Like, what do
so they
people
always
aim
say,
for?
like, on average, they're like, oh, you should aim for 10k a day, 10k a day at least. You know? Which I don't hit all the time, but that's generally like my target. Like, oh, if I've done 10k that day, then I know it's been a good day.
Yeah.
Well, what is it that you're hitting?
So my average for the last 7 days is 12,600. Right.
Oh, you walk a lot, bro.
Yeah, I'm walking a lot because I'm going masjid and back.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Like 4 or 5 times a day. Okay. Now, if I wasn't doing that, there is no way I would even hit 7, I think, or 6. Because where would I be going? I'd be walking around the apartment. I'd be maybe going to the kind of park thing with my son.
Yeah.
And maybe maximum to the shop. And there's no way I'm going to shop every day.
Bro, absolutely.
So that's kind of opened my eyes a lot, to be honest, to this. If 10,000 is like what people are saying is good. I mean, when I opened this app, the default was setting the target to 6,000.
Yep.
And then I heard this 10,000 number as well. So if they're saying 10,000 that's like very good, or is that average, like just normal to survive and be a healthy human?
I think it's going to be like what you should aim for to keep. I mean, you know what I've realized, and like, you know, I'm at a particular age. Like, oh, I'm 28 next week. Next week, I'm 28 in like 2 days, bro. What am I talking about? Something like that. But you know, I start thinking a lot about health. I start thinking a lot about, I don't want to say regrets, because, you know, I started exercising, you know, training in the gym or whatever you want to call it, when I was 17, 18, you know, and now that it's like 10 years later, I'm like, wow, what have I got to show for myself? You know, if I was consistent, imagine how I would look or how I'd feel 10 years if I was consistent. So it made me think, all right, the last 10 years wasn't that great. You know, I had a few years within those 10 years where I was like, yeah, really consistent and stuff. But it wasn't part of my life. It was more of I went through phases. Now with all this stuff that we spoke about, you know, the Apple Watch, the tracking, this and that, and also with the very stark realization about health, about, you know,
that 30 number.
Kids. Yeah, bro. I was like, I don't know how my body's going to be as soon as I hit 30, but we'll see. It has made me reevaluate, not just fit a mold of what other people say do, but also what works for me, right? And the walking thing is one of them. And I think I underestimated the power of walking, really, because when I would calculate, like, I'm not a great runner. I used to despise running, and I still despise running. And when I would run for as much as I could run, it'd be like, you've only burnt 200 calories, you've only burnt 300 calories, you waste of space, do better next time, right? And I'll be like, I killed myself doing that, I couldn't even do much. And then when I go for a walk, which I'm used to doing, which I used to do all the time, it's like I walk for an hour, I walk for 2 hours sometimes, and it's like, you've burnt 1,000 calories. I'm like, what? Really?
Yes.
And then I'll look it up. I'm like, this can't be right. I look it up and I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, it is right. So now in the gym, and then when I look at, and this is why I was talking about the age thing. When I look at all these runners and stuff, and people that talk about running, they're like, oh, don't run too much because it's bad on your knees and stuff, blah, blah. I was speaking to some of my guys that are into health and fitness and stuff. I was like, listen, I don't really like running. And also there's this thing about knees, right?
Joints,
and it's bad for your joints and stuff. Can I just walk, but for longer? Like, and they're like, yeah, absolutely. As long as you didn't maybe try and do a brisk walk or up hills and stuff, yeah, do that. I was like, well, yes, please. I'd rather do that. Yes. And that's what I've been doing. So especially now, even on the treadmill, I'll go to when I'm at the gym and I know I haven't done the walk. I haven't walked in the masjid. I haven't been able to fit it in today. I'll be like, okay, let me just do an hour walk on the masjid, right? And I've got some of the examples here. Like, I did a 35-minute walk 2 days ago, which isn't too much, which isn't my normal, but I did it at a particular pace on an incline, blah, blah, blah. 35 minutes, says here, about 300 calories to 380 calories, depending on whatever my body's going to say. And I was like, 300 calories, that's like 3 slices of bread, generally speaking. But that makes a big difference, because if you add that into everything else you're doing that day, imagine if you walk for an hour. That's
probably helps the metabolism as well, right?
Definitely. So, I'm all about, like I said, I'm on a calorie deficit. I have been for a while. I have been losing weight and then using this walk-in and stuff to supplement that, because I don't know if you ever watched that thing about Casey Neistat. He did a YouTube video years ago now where he was like, all right, calorie labels on food, how authentic are they? So he would take all these foods from New York that he lived in New York, take like this muffin, okay, it says it's this many calories, take this sandwich. And he was like, okay, this says this. He took it to a scientist. He was like, all right, tell me what it actually is. And he highlighted the discrepancy that you can have, which is up to like 20% sometimes, low or higher than the written amount. And they're allowed to be, apparently, about 20% in or out of that. But then when you're like a quote-unquote bodybuilder, you're tracking every single thing, you can't afford that, right? So when I'm my calorie deficit is a lot more than it should be. They say 200 or 300 calories below. I'm like, some things I eat could be 200 or 300 calories incorrect. So how am I going to know? So let me go even further down, supplement that with cardio and stuff. And when I say cardio, I mean just walking, because I'm not doing anything else. And it's kind of working for me, bro, and I'm not really too bothered. So I went on a bit of a tangent there, but definitely, bro.
It's made me not want to get like a car or a bike or anything like that, because it'll just ruin this habit of walking.
Yeah, man. I mean, my old role, I used to do foot patrolling all the time, and on a good day when I've been busy, 24,000 steps, 25,000 steps, and I remember that was like, I would feel tired after that, but at the same time, my body was so used to it, you wouldn't get the aches and pains and stuff.
And if you have good shoes and stuff, it helps.
Yeah, but it also made me think. So recently, I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast, but when I first started this whole endeavor, I got the watch, I started doing these walks, I started walking to the masjid and stuff. I had about a month out. I don't know what I did. I wore the wrong shoes, really hurt my toe, and I just couldn't walk on my foot for like a month. I even called the doctor to make an appointment, because he was like, this got to a month and it still hurts. And it made me think, subhanAllah, like one little injury can really put you out of action for so long, that I didn't actually want to do anything too strenuous, like running, or I don't want to twist my ankle. I don't want to do something where I'm going to be out of action, because what's the point of exerting yourself to an extreme level, frequently throughout the week? But then all it takes is one misstep or one trip, and then you're out of the game for so long. You can't be consistent that way. I remember
consistency is everything.
I saw a clip from, once again, Joe Rogan, but Firas Zahabi was talking, and he was talking about I don't know if you ever saw it. He was talking about like exertion in the gym. He said like you shouldn't train to failure every time you go to the gym or every time you go training, because if you go like 100% every time, then you're going to be exhausted throughout those weeks. You're not going to be able to train as frequently as you'd like. But if he goes 50, 60, 70% every time, he doesn't do failure, he could legitimately train every single day. And that means like he's getting, let's say, 7 workouts a week. You're getting 5 workouts a week. Throughout a year, how many more workouts has he achieved than you? You know, he could have like a whole year's worth of workouts that you don't have. So he's way more conditioned or way more trained than you are, because he's just done it more consistently.
This is like a smarter way of going about health, if you like. Definitely.
And it's, I'm trying to apply that to everything, even Quran, bro. Since that Quran only app, and we spoke about it a million times, bro. But like, it's a shame, because you look at the numbers of people that are reading the Quran now on that app compared to Ramadan, and it is, I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's quite low. But I still get those reminders, and I'm like, I'm definitely not reading as much Quran I was in Ramadan. That's, with a fact, I know that. However, when that reminder comes up, I'm like, I'll do 5 verses now, And we used to say, didn't we? We used to say, I used to say at least, 5, that's easy. Like, people aren't going to... And he had his wisdom by choosing 5, because we used to say 5 verses nothing. Why not increase it? And I said to myself, let me see if I can actually do these 5 verses a day. And there have definitely been days, you look at my record, definitely been days where I just haven't done the 5 a day. I've just forgot or whatever. I've seen the notification, but like, and I see the notification. I'm like, oh yeah, definitely in studio in 3 minutes. Let me just finish what I'm doing now, and I don't do it. I forget. SubhanAllah. So even the 5 we struggle with. So yeah, bro, a little but a lot, and as frequent as increases the frequency, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think an hour might be a lot, right? To walk every day, but half an hour seems doable. And it's good even psychologically, isn't it? Whether, you might want to, because I tend to listen to audiobooks while I'm walking, but then sometimes I just won't listen to anything, and that'll be good as well to just walk and think. So you can mix it up, and overall, if you did half an hour walking a day, I feel like that's a realistic amount of time that you can find. Even a mother like with a pram or whatever, she can walk half an hour. So
the targets that I have at the moment these are the standard targets they kind of give you on the Apple Fitness app. It's like movement is like 600 calories of movement a day, right?
600, okay.
Yeah, so you burn 600 calories just by moving, whether that's walking or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you've got actual exercise, like active exercise that you partook in, and that's 30 minutes. And then you've got stand hours, so standing for at least a minute every hour. So like for 12 hours, I've got it set to 12 hours, but I think it's usually 6 hours. So at least in those 12 hours, each of those hours, I should have stood up for like at least a minute, whatever. That generally happens anyway without really me thinking, because I'm just not sat at a desk job, but I can imagine it being very useful for people that are sat down all day. Yeah. But, bro, we were talking about the gamification of stuff. I actively get really invested in the whole gaming thing. Like every week, I don't see my cousin that much. To be honest, I hardly see my cousin. We hardly speak. Quite distant from me, even though we live in the same city. However, he's got a watch as well. Every week he wants to challenge me. He sets that because there's like competition mode. So he goes, okay, boom, let's compete this week. Yeah. And his targets are a bit higher than mine, but still, whatever. He doesn't mind that, and I don't really mind that. But I'm beating him by like 50 points now. You can get a maximum of 600 points a day. So I'm very, it's very close. Yeah. He's already done 290 points today. I've done 76, and I haven't done anything today. Let me remind you, I haven't done anything yet. But I wake up and I'm like thinking, and a few of my friends as well. So
how do I do it,
bro? Like this is like my list of people. So these are all people that I'm. You can't see their names, which is good. But these are all the amount of people that I've got on here that I kind of monitor and stuff. Bro, I'll be competing with one of them. Like one of the guys I compete with sometimes. He's quite active. Like he's like a fitness influencer guy on Instagram at least. And I'm like, when he does a workout, and I'm sitting there like, oh no, I can't let him beat me. And I have to get up and do something because he even has his motivational things. Like when someone completes a workout, it comes up with a prompt if you want to reply and send a pre-made message, and they can be quite like tongue-in-cheek messages like, oh, eat my dust, you wait and see, I'm going to beat you, blah blah blah. And they'll send that to me all the time, and I can't allow it, bro. I can't have them beat me. So even in the group chat, bro, some of the brothers will take the mick out of each other, like, oh, you're so lazy, you haven't done anything today, I'm looking at your activity, you're so lazy, get up, do something. It's really good, I think. It's really good to have that because it's changed my approach to it completely.
This is what happens when you have like 100 people paying them like 70k a year to design these things.
Yeah, bro.
I really like this like psychology approach to behavior design. I think it's really the right way to go about it. Actually, that reminds me, one thing I wanted to share on this episode was a few books I've been rereading recently by these brothers. They write books together. These guys called Chip and Dan Heath. They've written maybe 5-6 books together, and they're all kind of about this, right? So one book that I reread was called Switch, and it's like how to change when change is hard. And it's like literally a huge problem we all face is how do I change, right? Whether it's my diet, whether it's my ibadah, whatever it is, like we want to change, right? Or how we interact with our parents or whatever it is. So that's a key thing in life, and the way they write is very practical, and it's full of stories, which makes it entertaining and all of that. So Switch, that's one that I reread recently. Then they had, I think their first book is called Made to Stick, which is about how to craft like messages that stick, and you actually remember them. People like remember what you've said like months later, years later. Again, really well written, really kind of practical and interesting. Then I'm reading a new one now. I'm listening to a new one called Upstream, which is all about how to kind of focus on prevention instead of reaction. So how to like create systems that don't create poverty, and instead of how to deal with poverty. So that's a new one, and then they've got a new one coming out in January as well. So these guys are sick, and these guys are all around like kind of what you're talking about now, which is behavior design. Like, how do you get people to buy into ideas? How do you get them to remember the ideas and or take action on the ideas or whatever? Like, this stuff is severely underrated, but this is literally how I feel like we could get the ummah moving in serious, significant directions if we're like implementing these principles in whatever it is we're doing, whether it's a Quran app, whether it's your Sharia program, whether it's your school program for, you know, you're a teacher with your kids, whatever it is, you know, these principles are so sick, and those books are, you know, relatively short as well. So really good stuff, man. Really good stuff.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, we'll wrap up. I
have to drive to London, funnily enough.
Oh, right. In traffic.
Yeah, it's that time. It's like 5 o'clock, so I'm like, I'm going to get stuck. But, alhamdulillah, it's all good. But yeah, you were saying, before I cut you off, so rudely.
I was saying probably 4 months ago, I had like 8 Audible credits, and now I've got 0. So I like, because all that walking, isn't it?
Yeah, oh God. But you're right, you know, I just wanted to touch on that thing about walking in silence. Yeah, I'm so used to having my headphones in, listening to a YouTube video lecture, whatever it is, right? Those days where you don't have it in and you're like, let me just listen to the world, right? It's a really weird, strange experience sometimes. You just hear things and you don't like. I've got, generally my walk is, if I'm going to go for a walk, it's either to the masjid, which is along the coast, or it's going to be to town, which is also along the coast. You know, that's just my go-to. So hearing the waves, bro, hearing those seagulls, hearing, you know, I'm really fortunate. Good. I don't want to take that for granted whatsoever.
How long is the walk to the masjid?
Walk to the masjid is about 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's a brisk walk, but it's 30 minutes.
It's not walkable distance, I guess.
No, it's 30 minutes.
Maybe
there,
once a day. If you do it once a day, then that's your hour of walking.
Typically what I do is because I do get conscious about my feet, I don't want to like injure my toe or whatever, I'll typically walk there and get a bus back because I get free buses. Town is a bit more, it takes a bit longer, it depends where I'm going, but that's like a 5-mile walk. But because of what you see, what you experience on that walk or whatever, it's a lot more. 5 miles feels like nothing. But also we've got those bike rental things, you know, I love getting one of those. Like the other day I was like, I need to walk to the masjid for Jumu'ah. Got ready. By the time I got ready, I was like, I'm not going to have enough time, I better jump on a bus. I thought, actually, let me get one of those bikes, and it took me like 25 minutes to cycle 5 miles down there, which was really good. So yeah, just about fitting it in whenever you can, you know, and that's the ultimate thing.
And if you set up your environment for this, then like this, I feel like that's what I've done kind of without meaning to. So I mean, half meaning to. So walking to the masjid, plus kind of like delaying breakfast, plus having a light lunch, plus having a standing desk. This stuff has actually all come together to mean that I feel very light right now, very kind of I don't know, slim or whatever. Like, I feel like there's nothing extra on me at all.
Alhamdulillah, that's good, bro. I mean, even the car, I bought a new car recently, and what I noticed, I mean, I still need a car for my family to get to London, to all this stuff. It's, I don't know, I don't know.
Having kids is the big one where it's like you need it.
Even this move, actually, you know, typically this move, you'd think, I'd get a moving van and do it all like that. But I've been doing it because I literally live 4-minute walk from my old flat, or 10-second drive, literally up the road. So I thought, what's the point? I could just literally do this with my own car. And I've been doing it like that, just packing it up and then bringing it up here. So it's been really, that's why I've been a bit longer than normal, but it's a lot more cheaper. But what I will say, the new car, alhamdulillah, it's nice, whatever. The engine is smaller, but because it's a bigger car, it seems to drink more fuel, you know. So I'm like a bit more averse to using it as much as I used to. And because that is good, like I said, you know, when I'm like, I've got to go to Jumu'ah, I want to go to Jumu'ah in town, sometimes I drive there and park up, and I'm like, I don't want to pay for parking and then fuel. Do you know, let me leave the car. And it's more of an incentive for me to leave stuff. But anyway,
calf on the bus.
Well, this is it, bro. More time to do those kind of things. But yeah, my kids are getting restless and I have to go. But it's been a really good episode, bro. We've just been machine gunning through topics and stuff. Mind heist at its prime again.
Yeah, man. Inshallah, next week again. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Remember, we've got that link in the description for the confidence stuff, and see you next episode, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.